Dear listeners, I have so much to tell you, and I often don't know where to start. It seems the world doesn't want to admit that sometimes we make mistakes, and that sometimes the wrong person gets punished for something they didn't do. Not all of us have been personally affected, but many of us have been impacted by this reality, and I feel like it's my responsibility to share these stories with you and to tell you what I've learned about wrongful convictions. Welcome back to Wrongfully Yours. Today's episode is a conversation that sits at the intersection of expertise and lived experience. I'm joined by Dr. Akua Jackson, a licensed psychologist with a background in forensic mental health, community work, and most importantly, personal experience with the devastating realities of wrongful conviction. Akua didn't come to this work through theory alone. Her family is justice impacted. Her brother is wrongfully convicted. And through him, she became connected to the case of the Ohio Four. The four men who were convicted with no physical evidence, no forensic proof, and a case built almost entirely on the shifting word of a single incentivized witness. In this episode, we talk about what it means to realize that the justice system doesn't always correct itself, about how power, politics, and ego can stand in the way of truth, and about why wrongful convictions don't just harm the innocent, but they're equally harmful to the victims' families, entire communities, and to the integrity of the justice system itself. After listening to Akua, I think you'll come to realize how quickly our simple thought that it could never happen to me can turn into it happened to us. And so today, this is a conversation about who the system fails, who it protects, and what responsibility the rest of us carry once we know. So, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. And I do apologize. I'm fighting a cold, so you'll have to deal with my congested voice and whatnot, but I'm sure we'll make it through just fine. So, um, so I guess we can start with you just kind of telling us a little bit about who you are and how you got drawn into this crazy world of wrongful convictions, what drew you to the Ohio 4 case, anything of that nature.
Yeah. So my background, I'm a licensed psychologist. My background is heavily in forensic. That is what I enjoy the most. I worked at a psych hospital, and the patients that I work with, my unit was incapable to proceed. So I either did evaluations to see if they were capable or to help them get ready for trial. That didn't feel like a good fit for me because I just kind of felt like I was preparing these people to go to jail. A lot of, when you have the criminal involvement in terms of the legal system as well as mental health, a lot of them are just like wanting to take a plea, just getting it over with, guilty or not. Um,
Sure.
a lot of them didn't have full understanding of it. So I felt like that wasn't the right fit for me. That was just not the side that I wanted to be on. So I
You,
left.
you didn't want to be part of the machine.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I'm preparing these people to go to jail, and I couldn't see it any other way. So I got out of that. What brought me into wrongful conviction is that my family is just as impacted as well. Like I have a brother who's wrongly convicted. We're working on that. But that's what brought me into it. That's where and growing up, we've always our parents raised us to help others. We've always been very community oriented. My father worked in the nonprofit world. My mother worked in community development, like helping people in the community in terms of housing and things like that. So I come from a family of helpers. So I
Sure.
really had no choice.
Yeah.
Um, and so then when that struck our own family, like that devastation of there's no evidence. This is he'll be home soon. No, when that didn't happen. So that's kind of what brought me really, it made it very much near and dear to my heart. And my brother knows three of the four
Oh,
of the
wow.
Ohio four, and that's how I came involved with it. And so I do not work really with an organization in terms of wrongful convictions, but when he told me about the case, I was like, this is absolutely horrible. So I don't do what I do, a part of any organization. It's just me on my own, trying to help out and do as much as I can to get the word out.
and try to bring these innocent people home. And when I was talking with John, I made a point of saying there's a huge difference between being free, as in released from the institution, and being exonerated.
Right, exactly. Think about any jobs that has held them back from getting because
Sure.
of these conviction. Like, don't get me wrong, there has been work in the reentry field, whereas there are specific organizations that are listed as organizations who will hire someone who has a criminal background, criminal record, but that's limiting the jobs that you can actually get. Like, who knows what these people could have been without this problem, without this wrongful
Absolutely.
conviction, without this injustice.
Absolutely. And so without getting into like too much personal detail, I'm just really curious because you say your brother is justice impacted. What is it like to watch this unfold? Because now, forgive me if I am making vast assumptions here, but I think most of us grow up thinking the justice system does the right thing and the truth will always come out and it's there to protect us. And now you're watching that get flipped on its head. What is that like?
It's devastating, for lack of a better word that I
Sure.
could come up with right now. Like, I remember I was there when my brother was sentenced. I was there for his trial, and our entire family is like, "Okay, everyone will see. Justice will prevail. They'll see that this is not true, and he'll be home soon." And it was devastating, like I said, to hear that verdict. I mean, not that I was naive to believe that everything always worked out the way it should, but I didn't think that it would ever happen to us, and I think that's what people should think
Yes.
about. Now that I'm doing this work, wrongful conviction, while it does target more Black and brown, I've seen recent people who have been exonerated, they are not Black or brown.
Yep.
So, what people should think about is the fact that it can be you. Like, all of these people who were wrongly convicted were wrongly convicted. They did not do it. So these people were convicted with no evidence or false witness or, whatever the case would be for each situation where they did not do it. And
Yep.
now that they are paying the price, and then the person who actually did it got away free. And then if the situation is murder, the family of the victims, they have an injustice as well, because
That's
the
right.
person who actually killed their family member is away scot-free, and
Well,
a lot
that
of
and the whole community remains victimized because the real perpetrator is still out there with the potential to commit more crimes and continue to victimize society.
right, and imagine getting away with literally murder, like, I could
Sure.
do it again, I got away with it the first time."
Yep. Yeah. No, and I think you raised such an important point. We always think, like you said, this doesn't happen to me. This happens to other people. And the problem is, and I think the thing that we always lose sight of is that to everybody else, I am everybody else. Right? Like, you
Mhm.
say it could happen to anybody else. Well, now all of a sudden that includes me.
Right,
Right? And when
right,
I say it can happen to anybody else, well, now that includes you. And there
right,
you go. It happened to you. And it's just, I think it's something that is so important to remain mindful of because so many exonerees tell me exactly this, that it's like, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. It can
mhm,
happen to your neighbor, your sister, your partner. Like it can happen to anybody. And no one's immune, and you're right that they do tend to happen in more marginalized communities like Black and brown, but also people who are financially marginalized or who don't have social capital or who have learning disabilities or for any number of reasons. And I also know a number of exonerees who were middle class, white, with no criminal record, and yet somehow still pulled into this web that they can't get untangled from.
exactly, exactly.
It's absolutely crazy. And I really find it interesting that your brother, so did your brother meet? the Ohio 4 while he was serving, or did he know them before?
While he was serving, he came in contact with them. One of the things is my brother is a published author, and 2 of the Ohio 4 have books out, and that's how my brother came in contact with them. I mean, they're in there wrongly convicted, but they're still doing amazing things. Like, you spoke to Mr. Edwards, he has 3 novels out. He's doing screenplays, he's doing all these things. He's working with the nonprofits to make sure that children are not like the youth that are coming up are not going in that wrong direction to help kind of steer them in the right direction. So they're still doing positive things. And that's how my brother got involved with them.
I find that so interesting that they would find each other, because this is another theme that I have found speaking with exonerees is that they seem to find each other in institutions. Like, you just think, "Oh, I'm here on an island by myself," and then all of a sudden, somebody else who has been wrongfully convicted presents themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another reason that I got involved because I've been doing this with my brother's case, pretty much just my family and I. And like, I know what it feels like to hear people listen to historians like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, but want to do nothing about it. And that's what I want to appeal to people is like, unfortunately, I don't want to bring people in, but unfortunately, this could be you.
Yeah,
So, signing a petition, writing a letter, reaching out to those powers that be that can make this change, it's worth it because believe me, when you're in this world, when you're in this position, it is miserable, it is lonely, and it is challenging to try to reach out to these people to get help. So that is why a lot of the things that I do in terms of wrongful conviction, I do completely free of charge because it's needed. These are not people that have a lot of money to pay. They need the help. So why not help?
that's it. That's it. And, it's one of the difficulties with wrongful convictions, and especially in the case of the Ohio 4, they're convicted of doing something that they didn't do. So now, how do you prove that you didn't do it? How do you prove a negative? It's really easy to prove that you did do something.
Right.
There's going to be evidence, there's going to be paper trail, there's going to be something. But speaking with John, and he's like, there's no hair, there's no fibers, there's no DNA, there's no witnesses, there's no like, there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing except the word of one witness who flip-flopped depending on which way the wind blew and what was to his advantage. And how do you mount a defense against that? Because you're like, well, I wasn't there. Okay, prove to me that you weren't there. How? How do I prove I wasn't there? I mean, there was one of the 4 who was with his parole officer. Like, you'd think that
In
would be a
another
good.
state.
Yeah, right? Like, you'd think that would be a solid alibi, and yet somehow even that's not good enough, right? And people think, "Oh, it's really easy. I'll just prove that I'm somewhere else." Well, it's obviously not that easy, because even when you have something that seems solid, y- it gets spun in such a way that works against you. And the justice system is so built on finality that once they have that verdict, that's all they need. And everybody stops listening, stops looking, stops considering anything.
Right. Well, the false witness, he did it, it was motivated by money. And then he asked for more money. And the first person that went to trial, there was a hung jury. And then the false witness then changed his story completely different, and then that person was eventually convicted. In terms of how to prove you didn't do it, I feel like their attorneys, their legal team is amazing. They presented the information and proved and convinced the DA that was in office at the time, JD Tomlinson, that they did not do it. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Wow, you're right. They didn't do it. Let me move to vacate their sentences." But then it's like this area seems like a more rural area, like a smaller town. Everybody kind of does what they want to do, the powers that be, and they stopped it. The person who was not yet even in office, the incoming DA, came in on the newspaper and said, "Hey, I'll look at it when I get in office." Like, you're why are you talking about it? Like,
Yeah.
this is
This
not
should be
your
a done
job yet.
this should
um,
be a done deal that, like, we're moving forward with vacating it because it's quite obvious that this was a mistake.
right. But like so many judges who were who had these cases recused themselves. I think that they didn't want anything to do with it because they didn't kind of want to mess up the powers that be that are
Yeah.
in power in that area. Like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. They didn't want to, I guess, to commit career suicide or whatever the case may be. And
Well,
then
I
the
mean, and we talk about the blue line with the police, right? Like the thin blue line. And I think it's very much the same with judges, that judges don't want to call out other judges and say, "Think you're wrong. I think you made a mistake." Like they're going to stick together and ensure that they toe the party line.
Well, speaking of sticking together, the DA who is in office right now, Tony Sillo, is the mentee of the DA who was in office at the time that prosecuted this case. On top of that, the attorney general got involved, and even the judge ruling was like, "What do you have to do with this? Like, why are
Yeah.
you getting involved?" Well, the current DA worked in his office. So it's like protecting
Wow.
your buddies, and it's like that they're using the
Wow.
justice system to protect their buddies, and I mean, it's being allowed, and I know this case has been covered on the Joe Rogan Experience twice. The first time was when the other DA was still in office, Tomlinson, and the attorney, Josh Dubin, went on and, he had a call to action, flood his office with letters, with phone calls, and a part of the reason I think that he was like, "Wait a minute, I have to handle this," is he got tired of all the attention, and he reached out to the DA. So mind you, they go on the Joe Rogan Experience again with the former DA and again Josh Dubin, and right before they go on the Joe Rogan show, the current DA calls and schedules an appointment. So what does that do? That stops the attorney asking for people to call in or email in to put pressure on this DA to reopen this case. And then now it's kind of fell by the wayside. And because there's no pressure, it's just like, we're not worried about that. And it's horrible because the DA who prosecuted the case, Rosenbaum, he has another wrongful conviction that another person has been exonerated, that Nancy Smith. And he
Wow.
recently was in the Chronicle Telegram, that's their local newspaper, and he's trying to vacate her exoneration.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
saying she's guilty. He's saying that the way the DA and the previous judge went about it was wrong. And so these people, there's this all this human casualty and they don't care. Like
No.
it's all about politics. It's not about being human. It's not about anything other than
It's
protecting your
politics, but it's also hubris and ego, and that should have no place in a courtroom. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is the court of law is to uncover the truth, to
right.
find the facts, to determine guilt or innocence. It's not for me to showboat and to, hurt my feelings that I lost a case. So, for this case, because you're talking about the previous, kind of call to action, what can people do now to help bring attention to this case?
I think the best thing is getting the word out, doing things like this, getting the right people involved, and mainly reaching out to Tony Sillo, the district attorney, and like, hey, reopen this case, review this case, like respond to their attorneys. Like he's not saying anything. He got in office and one of the first things that he did was withdraw the motion. Like not review it and say, well, let me see. He just withdrew the motion.
Close
And
the file and moved on.
right. And it's crazy. The very the the judge, they put in the motion, previous DA, put in the motion. The judge at first said, "Hey, why are you holding this up?" And that same judge 3 days later said, "Oh, well, what's the rush?" Like, I think
Wow.
it's a lot of like helping out your friend. So your friend doesn't show, like, now this person would have at least two wrongful convictions under their
Yes.
belt. And
Yeah.
so reaching out and letting him know, we hear you, we're going to hold you accountable. Respond to the attorneys, do something, putting pressure on them to if they feel like they are guilty, if they feel like this should not be reopened, then explain it. Like, they are just able to get away with this with no explanation whatsoever.
Right. Right. And all the information is on freetheohio4.org and freetheohio4.com.
Right. So freetheohio4.org has a summary. It has a sample letter. If you don't even have to worry about making up a letter. Has a sample letter, has the DA's email address. You can use that letter, make your own, whatever. The freetheohio4.com is for people who like, maybe I'm not too convinced. You can go and review all the documents that their lawyers have presented, and then you make your own decision. Like, I cannot imagine anyone reading through this and still feeling like they belong there.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, I think I looked at the documents for about probably 30 seconds and I was like, wow, this is a steaming pile of baloney. This is not fiction. This is not Hollywood. This is not a screenplay. Like you can't make this stuff up. It is so far out there.
Well, and another thing that's also odd about this case is Tony Sillo says that he wasn't familiar with the case. However, he worked on the case previously. So
Wow.
now you're lying. Like, why? What are you covering up? That's what I think about as a psychologist. I do understand human behavior, and that's going to be a red flag. Like, why are you lying? There's proof that you were involved. So now why are you lying?
Yeah.
And so, like, the false witness, of course, he lied back then, but he recanted more than once. At the time, he said he was on drugs, he got clean, had, it was weighing on his conscience, whatever. When he came forward, he didn't come forward for money. No one paid him. He came forward like, I feel horrible. These four men are incarcerated and have lost their freedom because of me. And that he came forward free of his free will to say, actually, I lied. And then they threaten him that you can be charged with perjury. So
Yeah.
he said, yes, these people are innocent. He said it to reporters. Yes, these people are innocent, but I'm not going to jail for them. And
Yeah.
so, like, there's no
He's
evidence.
put in an impossible situation,
Right.
really.
Right.
That he's not given a fair choice
Mm.
because either way he's screwed for lack of a better term.
Right. Exactly.
So I see we're just about at time for today, and I thank you so much for joining me because I think this is really informative. Is there anything, any take home message, any final thing you want to throw out there before we let you go?
Just that call to action to please, reach out to the DA and call, send emails, let him know. Like, I think it's the pressure on the office that's going to make a difference. The petition and signing it is amazing. We could show that, hey, we have this support, but it's more so reaching out that they know that the public is not going to let you get away with this.
Yeah, and I mean I think that was made very clear the first time around because
Yeah.
that's why the motion to withdraw the case was put forward in the first place was because of the public pressure. So
Right.
we just need to rally the troops again and get this going again.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time
Thank
and I
you.
really appreciate you joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Before we close today, I want to return to something Akua emphasized again and again in this conversation. Awareness alone is not enough. The case of the Ohio Four is not unresolved because the facts are unclear. The record is extensive, the lack of evidence is glaring, and even a previous prosecutor acknowledged that these convictions should have been vacated. What's missing now is accountability and pressure. If you're listening and you're wondering what you can do, there is a call to action. You can learn more about the case, read the court documents for yourself, and find a sample letter you can send directly to the district attorney at freetheohio4.org. But if you want to go deeper into the legal filings and the evidence, you can also visit freetheohio4.com. Signing a petition matters. Sharing the story matters. But as history has shown in this case, direct pressure, emails, letters, demands for transparency is what really gets things moving forward. Wrongful convictions survive in silence, fatigue, and the hope that public attention will fade. This episode exists to make sure that it doesn't. As always, thank you for listening, for caring, and for refusing to look away. And while today's letter may have piqued your interest, this is only part of the story. There's still so much more to tell. The effects of wrongful convictions are far-reaching. They touch us all. I'll write to you again soon as I continue my conversations with those whose lives have been impacted by a wrongful conviction. But until then, I remain wrongfully yours. And if today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with others, liking and following the podcast on your favorite platforms so you don't miss what comes next. And as always, thank you for listening to Wrongfully Yours, where we believe that telling these stories is the first step towards preventing the next injustice. And until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and keep fighting for justice. If you have something that you want to talk about with me, or even if you want to just send me some words of encouragement, you can drop me a line at wrongfullyyourspodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, kellylozon.ca, for more information about me and the kinds of things that I do.